Well, everybody, the Nintendo Switch Pro revision OLED, I guess as they're really calling it, has actually been released, everybody. I'm going to give you guys my full thoughts on the situation here. I don't know if you can tell by the tone of my voice, but I'm not as excited for this as I thought I was going to be, just based off of what Nintendo has released thus far on what this console is actually going to be. So let's get into all of that now. So to start with, I think the main thing that a lot of people were hoping for would have been, you know, a new chip maybe something past the 2015 Tegra X1 chip, but no. No. Nintendo sees the sales that the Tegra X1 is bringing in, and they're thinking, what are we, stupid? What are we going to do? Change that? What are we going to do? Do what these other manufacturers do and actually make something new? No. We're going to keep selling it. We're going to slap a better screen on it, and we're going to give them 0.8 more inches of it just by reducing the bezel. It doesn't look like it's going to be a bigger console. It fits universally with all docks, so I guess there's your confirmation. It's not going to be a bigger console. It works with all the other Joy-Cons, so it's still going to have Joy-Con drift. There is definitely some benefits to having this console, and I do plan on buying it, but I seriously do feel like this console could have been better, and I'm going to tell you why I think that. So, the thing is we all know that the Nintendo Switch had a terrible kickstand. Straight up, absolutely horrendously bad kickstand. We all knew that. And I think that that's something that, you know, the entire generation I've been really mad about because, you know, I can't even use mine. I had to buy a replacement one, and I had to put that on there because my original one busted off and I lost it somewhere, and I flipped over my Switch and it was just missing. So I had to go all this time without one until I finally found a replacement one to buy for it. And then if that wasn't enough, everybody, all the fan vents on the top of my Switch all cracked and busted off, and I was left with, well, a Nintendo Switch that looks absolutely terrible and is completely falling apart. But I've had it since the launch of the Switch, and I do not plan on getting rid of it. That's one of those things that, you know, when you are buying a new console, there is definitely consequences to that, and I feel like all those things that I've listed there are kind of like consequences to owning a new console. I don't feel like I made a bad choice. I got to play Breath of the Wild day one, and for me personally, that's always been worth it and always will be worth it. But the thing is that the Switch had some serious quality problems, and I can see on this new Switch the way the new heat vents are made and everything, it does not look like they're going to break off like crazy like the one on the OG launch Switch did. Next, I want to talk about battery life, because apparently they're touting this to have the same battery life as the version 2 Switch, which I think is kind of funny because it's going to have that OLED screen, right? So how would it be able to have that battery life? I hope that they're not just using the same statistics from that other console, and they're not just pretending like it's going to be able to do that, because if you did not know, OLED screens are not going to be able to reach the same battery life as what the Nintendo Switch is using now. I don't care what Nintendo says. That's not even physically possible with the technology OLED is currently at. I do not see that as a thing that could ever happen there. So I'm hoping that it does actually have a bigger battery to compensate, and that they're not just lying on the spec sheet about how many hours you could get, because, you know, they always say it could last like to 7 or 8, 9 hours. Nobody Switches ever last that long, even playing indie games or older games. Usually it never lasts that long for me, even on my Switch Lite. Let alone my first generation Switch. I have a battery case I always leave it in because the thing dies all the time. It literally never is alive, and that's kind of why I always have to have a battery thing on it, because it's just always dead, and the battery just continues to get worse. So I'm really happy that they have obviously put something in place here for that OLED screen. I really don't think that they would lie to everybody and do that, so I'm just assuming that they definitely have put a better battery in. And like I said, I also really did love the kickstand, and the 64 gigabytes of onboard storage is definitely another thing that's really, really nice. The OLED screen's another thing that I really do love about this new Switch revision. I seriously do think that OLED screen's going to make a lot of things look better. And a lot of people were worried about the OLED screen because it's bigger, going to make stuff look even worse. But really, that OLED screen's going to mask that really well. It's a really great screen, and you guys are going to see that if you have never had an OLED screen. I actually have, and I know what to expect from an OLED screen, so it's one of those things I can tell you all as a person who actually has one. Yes, OLED is worth the hype, and OLED is definitely the future of all these different things. But I seriously think that, you know, it would have been nice to have some more power, and I think that's kind of where this video is going, because we've heard a lot of good, but let's be honest here, I think we were all hoping to get an additional 10 frames a second on each game, or hopefully just even a stable 30 frames a second would have been nice, Nintendo. Like, you couldn't have made just a little bit more power. You guys couldn't have used something more powerful than a Tegra X1. That was the only option for this. I seriously highly doubt that. So I guess this definitely contradicts all the rumors that the Tegra X1 chip is going out of production come the end of this year, because obviously if they're hyping up a new model, then that's not the case. Another thing is, I think people need to quit holding on to this false narrative that there is a Switch Pro hiding still and that it is going to be more powerful and they're going to release it. The thing is that I don't see that as a possibility at this point, just because if you think about it, they're going to have to wait a couple years to introduce a new model. Look what they did with the Switch Lite. Look what Xbox did with the One S and the One X. And Jeff Grubb was actually the one who said this, so I got to give him the credit there because it makes sense here that they're not going to be able to release another Switch in this generation. They'll probably be out of year frames, and they're probably going to be trying to introduce you into a next-gen Switch, not a, revised Nintendo Switch. So I feel like our days of speculation on a Switch Pro have come to an end, everybody. It's been really fun getting here. I will admit I'm not 100% happy about this, but I'm definitely not sad about it. I'm looking forward to picking one up. Definitely looks like something cool. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to unbox it on this channel. Subscribe if you have not already to not miss any of that, because it is going to be an absolute banger when we do get one in the house October 8th, 2021. Metroid Dread seems to be a game they're plugging with that too. And did you guys see how good the new Pokemon games looked? They looked so much better in this trailer than they did in the other one. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Jimmy out of here.